Okay, here we go to an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today I have a really cool follow-up for you guys from the brand Beaubleu. Now, they were founded back in 2017. Then they are a French microbrand with their signature, known for their signature round handsets, their unique designs and ornate details. Their watches are entirely imagined, designed, and assembled in Paris, and their watchmaking workshop, which also services watches, is located just a few blocks from their showroom. In terms of the type of watch, I consider this an everyday dress watch. Some key characteristics and design when you're looking for something within this space. Of course, you want to find something that has a clean, classic, minimalist design that is also relatively sensibly sized. This is their Ecce Figura Alba, and it's Beaubleu's upcoming unisex model and their first in a squared shape. The semi-octagonal case showcases their elevated level of detailed finishes, and this specific Alba dial variant is highlighted by a classic railway outer track, framing the brand's unique, signature handsets, which is fantastic. Now, in terms of the pricing here, guys, without tax, direct from the brand as configured on this beautiful mesh bracelet, you're paying $1,078. Now, this is currently available on pre-order with a estimated October delivery date, and I have to say this thing is really, really impressive, especially now trying it on this gorgeous mesh bracelet. So with all that said, let's go ahead and zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, now I did review this piece previously on the leather strap, but this mesh is quite outstanding. So I reached out to the brand to see if they could provide it for a follow-up, and they very kindly obliged. Now, looking at this piece, dimensions-wise, in diameter, it's going to be 31.9 millimeters across, just 8.7 millimeters thick, as you can see, really quite thin there, and then 40 millimeters in terms of that lug to lug distance. So this is going to wear quite beautifully. Now, it is going to be a larger wear on smaller wrists because this is unisex, but I will say on a larger wrist like my own at 7.5 inches, I think it wears quite nicely. I am a bit concerned with the strap width. I wish it was at least a 19, preferably a 20 millimeter. And then you add in the fact that this does taper down to about 16 millimeters. And that gets much, I'd say more polarizing. But I think looks wise, right? Not on the wrist, not considering proportions, again, on your wrist, as just a piece of art almost. This thing is absolutely gorgeous. So you do get a flat sapphire crystal with inner air coating. You're getting this beautiful vertical brushed layout with that stepped concave bezel with high polished accents. You're also getting a nicely signed push-pull crown. Check that out if I can get the camera to focus. Let's get it to. Let's see what we can do. Boom. Very, very neat from that perspective. Now, although you cannot see it, because it does have a sealed case back, which is really beautifully done. The movement inside here is going to be your automatic Miyota 9015, and it absolutely does the job. It also has a 42-hour power reserve, beating at 4 hertz in terms of that beat rate, and then you're also going to have this tuned to be accurate to plus or minus 10 seconds per day. So very nice, and really not in need of any additional service or even thought of, which is nice. It's a very solid movement there, and it kind of gives you everything you need. Now, in terms of the dial, hands, and loom, guys, there's no loom to report, but the dial is a beautiful matte white colorway with a very nicely printed index. And of course, in terms of the handset, it's going to be thermally blued and not painted. You're also going to get 30 meters or 3 ATM of water resistance, so that's a nice little thing to keep in your pocket. Of course, no, it's not some dedicated water sports type of wear, but you know, it gives you enough water resistance to get by. Now, in terms of the lug width, like I mentioned before, 18 millimeters. This mesh bracelet does taper down to 16, and I do love a good taper on a mesh bracelet because you typically don't get the taper. In this case, though, you have a taper on there, and I quite like that. Although, again, I would prefer this to be thicker in terms of the lug openings. Now, since I did do the full review previously, I'm not going to break things up as much. We're going to go ahead and get this on the wrist, and you guys will see kind of one of the bit of a pitfalls with this is that it is a smaller strap. It's very short. I mean, it's barely going to fit there, guys. I'm going to get it though. I'm going to feed it through, and then I'm going to clip it down, and you're going to have something a little, you know, easier on the eyes to really dig into. So let's get that going. Okay, check that out. So not a lot of room there, guys, in terms of slack, but my goodness, check it out. That is beautiful. So with that said, let's go ahead and then just tighten up the frame here so that you guys can get still a detailed look, but just add a bit of a truer aspect ratio as to how this may lay on your own wrist. Look at how thin that is. Look at the beautiful stepped concave bevels there. Very, very nice. This has a lot of light play. It does have a fair amount going on, but I will say it's really well curated in terms of where they choose to be busy and, you know, where they choose to be, I think, quite clean. So it does come together quite nicely here. So there's no loom on here, so there's no need for a low light transition and loom section, but I will say because of the dial is that more kind of pale colorway versus a true white, you know, optical white, that maybe it might be worth it to do a little extra low light transition with this piece just so you can get an idea of how it's going to look and render while it is on your wrist potentially. So with that said, let's go ahead and get this off the wrist set up for those low light transition and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Now, of course, there's no loom, but one thing I always like to work in is going to be that low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it is nice to have these colors, textures, and finishes render alike in less than optimal lighting. And as you guys can see, this thing performs. Now, again, those ornate details, they pop. They are finely finished and sharply executed, and it all comes together stylistically thanks to this very, very cohesive design that is, again, quite timeless, if you ask me. So again, there's not a lot to see in the way of loom. There's really nothing to see. So we'll go ahead and get through this piece here, get the lights going, and close this piece out. All right. On the wrist, nice mid-sized wear on my larger wrist, although I do wish that it had 20 millimeter lugs, or at least 19 millimeter, but that's a totally subjective, you know, piece to my own personal preferences. Also, I do wish that the length was more accommodating to my larger 7.5-inch wrist. Now, in terms of model variants, definitely check the site links for current options and availability. In terms of comparable models, guys, this definitely slots between two opposing ends of the spectrum: full-on luxury and affordable homage. Somewhere between that, this does add higher levels of fit, finish, and design, but also keeps costs down thanks to that off-the-shelf Miyota movement. So for me, guys, bottom line, you know, I, like many, have recently really come around on casual wear dress watches, and for good reason. The Ecce Figura is just another example, you know, an awesome example at that, of what a microbrand version of maybe a Cartier might feel or look like. And I think that's fun. And that's one of my favorite things about microbrands is that they're always working to justify their existence through a very deliberate and quirky means. But let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please do a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.